We have a motion for the agenda to start us off.
Move to approve the agenda.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just kind of, we talked a little bit, I talked a little bit with Heather. So kind of explain to me the process of when we had such a big, long meeting, how that works, and how you decide what to put in the notes or the
Oh, you're talking about the minutes?
minutes, right?
Okay.
Or I feel bad, she said she had to go through it twice, maybe 3 times, so.
Well, the next thing we'll do is we'll address the minutes. Do you want to ask a question on the minutes after we approve the agenda?
I'm sorry, you said approve the agenda, I apologize.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda is approved. Included in our packet are the minutes from August 8th. Are there any questions or corrections to the minutes that haven't already been submitted to staff?
So that's my question is so when we see something, we should submit that before this meeting?
You don't have to, but if you notice something, you can let Heather know beforehand, and then she just puts it into the packet.
Okay, I do have a couple things I wanted to add or question. I wasn't quite sure, so I wanted to put in.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about it now? Because
Well,
we
I'm
need
just
to
not sure
either.
if everybody, that's what I was asking, if you had comments, I don't know if everything got in there, obviously, so is there, if you had, like, for example, I only had a couple things that I noticed. One is that I had mentioned that we had talked about that 1 in 30 was, people had known about the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not here in the minutes. That's why I was just wondering how that works, or if there's other things that
Yeah, I can speak to that. Basically,
help me a lot.
the statutory requirements for the minutes is that it is a summary of the discussion and records the actions. What we try to do is balance between that, which is very minimal. It basically says what was discussed and does very little description or recounting of what actually anybody said. To the other end is a transcript. And so we try to balance between those two extremes, and I'm often pushing Heather more towards the minutes being a summary of the actions and a summary of the discussion, because we do have both a video recording and an audio recording available to the public to serve as and that's part of the official record of the meeting. If there are specific things that you stated that you'd like to have be picked up in the minutes, we're happy to make those changes that say, hey, I felt like this point I made was important, I'd like to make sure it's captured in the minutes. We have no issue with that. So if there's something that jumps out to you that was important to you and we didn't capture, please just let us know and we'll just make that change. I used to do this way back in the day, and I would almost just transcribe it because it was easier for me to do that than to decide what I should include and what I shouldn't, or how to summarize what somebody said. I spent more time thinking about that than just typing it all out with my little foot pedal and the tape recorder. So just to help us keep that balance, if you can, I'm always pushing Heather to the efficiency side, and if you see things that can push us back the other way, I think that'll help us maintain a good balance in how thorough the minutes are.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. I think that the reason I've asked you, and I think that the paragraph covered the point that we talked about fine, adequate. I just realized that there's some things that were different. This is my first time in having a great big huge long meeting, so I didn't know if everybody went through and saw or they had any other points, and I'm assuming that's what we're doing at this point. So that answers my question. So thank you.
So are there changes you'd like us to include before somebody makes a motion?
Because we can postpone accepting the
Yeah, we can also
I'm
postpone.
okay with it. It brought up a question that I was trying to understand how that works. But the transcribing is there. So if someone was to go back and look and say, wait a minute, because last time we did the motion, we kind of said, well, would like to make adaptions with the things we've talked about. And I didn't know if that was how that was being. And Anna talked about having those things added to the plan, whatever else. So when I saw the minutes, I realized I'm not exactly sure if I got everything, because I listened as best I could. So, I don't know if anybody else has any comments or anything, but that's all I had, so.
I suppose a related question would be, if we do have a video and audio recording, what do you think about putting here and there on a longer one like this, timestamps? So if you wanted to listen to a particular section, you know where to go.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay.
Even, yeah, when with items or the public hearing starts, yeah, we'll talk about what might be some good kind of standard procedure for where to put some timestamps.
Okay.
So
Cool.
people can
That'd be
go back to the video and say, I want to hear what, I don't actually.
This part here sounded like it was interesting. Let's go to that part.
Yeah, whoever comes to that conclusion
Mhm.
when reading planning commission minutes.
Everybody
Minutes
reads the planning
interesting.
commission minutes.
Yeah, really. So was anything added in what we talked about then, when it went to the
In the
city
minutes?
council?
Oh, it has not gone to
Oh.
the city council.
Oh, okay, I thought it was going last
That's
week, so.
It
next
was gonna, we were
week.
gonna go just do an initial work study meeting on it next week, and the adoption was gonna be the beginning of September, but now we've moved that back to, it'll be September 5th for the initial work session. And I'll just give you, well, actually,
Do you have a meeting on the primary election day?
since there's no in-person,
We don't have a polling location here.
no, it's all, photo home. I can take you through all the dates for the plans later in the meeting if you'd like. I have a presentation on that. I just can't remember off the top of my head. I can go find it. But yes, the plan we've provided them to review doesn't reflect those changes yet, because they just wanted to get a copy of it to start looking at it. But there is a memo that goes along with it that is summarize the things but we haven't, made the change to the document yet.
So do you have, are we gonna get a copy of that memo? or-
Yeah, I can send you a copy of the memo.
I think that would be, I guess that was kind of the gist of my whole thing is to figure out, because we kind of came to the end, because we were so, it was an exhausting, long meeting, was to say, well, kind of summarize the things that we've talked about. Maybe we should have made a motion with bullet points or something else like that, and make sure it was addressed. So if we could get that, I don't know if this is the appropriate time or to adjust the minutes or whatever else, but I don't know exactly the procedural part of that, but I think that would be helpful for us to look at that and review. So that at least when we're sending our recommendation to the city council, that we are clear, not that we've just said, yeah, we've talked for 3 hours and what's that?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand the motion said, and I thought you did a good job of I was saying what the motion was, but it was saying some of the things that we had summarized but it didn't go through and say this. That's what I think we should have as a planning commission to
You
say.
think the motion should be a lengthier motion, you mean?
Well, at least identify the points that everyone was concerned about, so then we have that to be a clear, concise understanding of what we're saying. Because we did recommend they approve it with some kind of caveat, and we don't
We
have
did.
that caveat.
Yeah.
It says the
It
cyclist
says to-
education, safety, and community engagement included in the motion.
It said to, it kind of referred back to, a comment that you had made, but I don't remember having read that comment
Within
in
the
the
minutes.
minutes, but
No.
I might have missed it.
Line 303.
These three
Yes,
things.
yes.
It's in
And
there.
that is in the minutes?
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
in there.
do you guys know
It's
what
just
that
a
is?
short
I just
line at
missed
303.
303.
It's just very infamous. is what it
I
is.
had some trouble with some of the pages on the PDF, so.
In general, we are always happy and would seek after the most specific motion you could give, and those who have been on the commission for a while have had experience with me stopping you and saying, okay, is this exactly what you mean? Because we've had experience, and you can talk to anybody that's been around in the city for a while, that we come back a week later and say, okay, we have the motion, but is that really what they wanted us to do? So as much as, if we're ever doing, like before the council's an ordinance, we will always make the changes in writing before we adopt it. But as much specificity or generality in the motion as you feel is appropriate, we're fine with. I always like it to be more specific. So, if, and a way to handle that too would to be, instead of a second, could be a motion to amend the motion or add clarification to the motion to make sure that what we get in the record captures everyone's understanding of what we were trying to accomplish.
I think I felt like your comment was a little bit more descriptive than this. This seems like a summary of your comment.
It is.
And so it might be good, since the motion references that comment, it might be good to have that comment verbatim maybe.
Okay.
Like, for specifically, one of the things that I think we should probably look at, and maybe you've got it already in your part, because it wasn't one of the three things, was population growth and how this study's affected by it. You know what I mean? If it's a 20-year plan, then we know, you know what I mean? How are we looking to address that kind of thing? That's what I thought was the one thing that I was kind of looking for on
Oh,
yours.
yeah, I didn't include that in the motion.
I
Yeah.
agree. I mean, we just
Yeah.
kind of said, well, the stuff we've talked about, so if you've already got a memo or something, maybe you could send it out to us, and if we want to revise it as a commission to say, yeah, that's great.
Well, that's where it's actually problematic because
Yeah, I was gonna jump in. It seems to me that if we start going to that level of specificity and start saying, oh, well, we need to have a plan for population growth, we're actually changing the plan, and so we shouldn't approve the plan moving forward. This is
Yeah.
my view on it. We should not be recommending the plan be approved if we're not comfortable with the content of the plan.
yes, exactly. If
That's
you
what I
wanted to
thought
be
we
able
did
to
now.
come back and review,
Yeah, I mean,
That
that
would've
would
been a
mean
continuance.
That would've been-
we did not approve a motion. We shouldn't have said, we approve it. We should have said,
we continue.
we need to continue it, and here are the things that need to be addressed in the plan before we, and I'm looking at it, I'm going, gosh, because I was thinking about it through the week, thinking, maybe we should have held off a little bit on this plan, because there are a lot of questions that were brought up, and we're saying in the motion, these need to be addressed.
But we didn't really give you
But-
any good tools to say, here's what we want addressed, or how to do we want it modified? Is it just a discussion point? Why not,
Well, in
That's-
the motion, it did said including language related to those three items.
Yeah,
And so,
but I
and
mean,
not other items.
yeah, but even with those three, should we have, if we want more specific action, should we have said, let's continue this, come back with modifications to the plan that say, here's how we're gonna address safety, here's how we're gonna address
Right.
communication with the
If you wanted another
Boulevard
review
neighborhoods.
of those changes, then the
and then
appropriate,
come back with those changes
Right.
and let's re-review it.
right.
And I guess that's too late to do now, but
I mean,
we can draw it back, I guess.
I don't know the Roberts rules or the procedure on how that would work. I remember as,
But I do
I-
think if we're gonna jump into this
But
kind
I
of
think
conversation, it's
that-
probably a good thing.
At this point,
It'd be better to
it's,
just
we need
talk
to
the
go to the
council.
city council meetings that are discussing this. And
Well,
that's where
and
we
it
could have
asked
our
for
another
the
group.
updates or the markup.
Right.
So that was my anticipation, was
Yeah.
there was gonna be something that was gonna be presented to the city council that said, the planning commission thought this was a great plan, but here's the markups or the things. I hadn't seen anything like that, so.
yeah,
that's-
you'll get that and they will receive a staff report that summarizes the discussion and communicates the points that the planning commission communicated in the motion and in the discussion. Well, we also attach the minutes, to the, city council staff report as well. But yeah, you haven't received back edits to the plan yet, but you will get a copy of that again, just to reinforce Brett's point, if there is a desire, if there's any desire to have the opportunity to have another crack at or review the changes to make sure they accomplish what you wanted to accomplish, the best motion would be to continue and then direct staff on what to do and what to bring back to you.
So do we make that motion here now, or?
We can't,
Well, I'd have to,
It's-
without having,
As if I go to city council meeting now, and I tell them, well, yeah, because I was the one that seconded it, but I was seconding it, and the expectation that we were gonna have some kind of a modification to the plan, so that's my only concern is not that I seconded it, but that my true intent was not being recognized or realized, and that was really, I should have stopped back there and said, I think we should have a more definite, item of things to communicate, so.
Josh, will they address these three issues before it's presented to the city council in the plan? The three issues that are in the motion.
before it's presented for, I guess, what do you mean by address? I don't think I'm gonna have a revised, well, actually now with the change timeline, I might have a revised plan
Addressing these three issues.
before the work session, but it will definitely be something we talk about in the work session, and then before we furnish them the final plan
That
for
helps.
adoption, they'll have the revised text. But that's definitely part of the discussion, this is what, and it's in the memo, to them that I've included with their copy of the report, that says this language isn't reflected in the plan yet, but this is what they wanted to accomplish with safety, public outreach for implementation and education. So
So that does
they've-
help, Ralph.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just understanding a little bit better that we shouldn't move it forward unless we're totally, so that's bad on me. I didn't understand that was the process. I thought we were trying to make a recommendation with the recommendation coming back to us, but what we should have, in my view of what we would have done, was to said, well, because we were anxious to move it forward, right? That was the comments that we all had talked about. But if we were anxious to move it forward with comments, then we don't really have the comments, then maybe what we should do is say, no, let's pull it back, adjust according to our comments. I don't know how you get it done, because you went through the PAR group and all their changes, and
We'll
ours,
just continue it.
it just continues. So anyway, I'll
But-
do better
but-
in the future, at least so that I can feel like I've at least let you know what I feel or how things can go.
But I think it's a good reminder for all of us. Your point is a good reminder for all of us to remember that, we can't just say, these are the things we want addressed. Now let's move on. We should need to say,
We
these are
should
the
say,
things we
take it
want to
back, let's
address.
address them, and then
bring it
we'll
back,
present
and
them
let's
to the
review
city
it.
council.
and there are some
That's all right.
things.
We did talk about that particular option
Yeah,
in the meeting. We looked at, we said, had a conversation of, do we want this to be something that comes back to us? Or are we comfortable making a recommendation to staff?
I agree.
To
And
the
we
whole
decided
board.
that if we gave direction to staff, that would be sufficient. So we did think about it, but
No, I
we always
totally
think
agree.
about things
That's why I was
twice.
anticipating some kind of a note, and I don't want to
Mhm.
belabor this, but I was anticipating some kind of okay, staff has written something up, and here's what because they'll always see
Yeah,
this, plus,
It's just becoming
here are
familiar
comments.
with the process,
Yeah.
Mhm.
like,
Well, I think,
in
I
the
thought
way
that
we,
too.
yeah, in
I
the way
thought
that
that
we.
too, but I thought it was being approved before it actually is, so I didn't understand the timeline.
I think we've already belabored the point, so it's been 20 minutes on this issue, and I think we all understand it, so I think we need to continue on with the planning commission meeting. Mrs. Chairman.
So, well, with the minutes, do we need to continue the minutes to have things added or
If
changed?
there are changes that someone would like added to the minutes that they are not prepared to bring forward at this meeting, then someone could make a motion to bring back the minutes at a later date.
So
If
they
you
would
have the
get to-
changes that you're ready to make, then we can make those changes at this time.
That was my question. I can't add minutes because we didn't make a comment, you know what I mean? There's nothing there to add if we didn't make a motion that
Correct.
specifically outlines the items. so.
Right, we can only correct or add in what was in the original record.
Right, original.
Yeah, so if there's something that was said or stated that you feel we need to,
Fine with that. I just was I was anticipating, and I've said enough, I guess. I'll learn. You'll find, I'll figure it out.
2 years in, you'll have it figured out.
I'll slide
Maybe.
I'll slide it back next time, and then I can at least, make my motion accordingly, so,
Okay, and it's always okay to ask questions.
I know, I agree.
Well, do you want me to make a motion?
We do need a motion one way or the other on the minutes.
Well, I would put a motion forth to approve the minutes with, the expansion of line 303, 304 to include more the exact language from Commissioner, or Chair Allingston.
I would amend that motion to also include any substantive content from the meeting that supported those ideas that adds to clarification of the intention.
I accept those amendments to my motion.
All right, do we have a second? No second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Not sure I heard
Said
her. Okay. It was very quiet there. Okay, motion passes. The minutes for August 8th, 2023 are approved with the recommended adjustments. For consent agenda tonight, we have one item. If there are no objections or comments, then this item will pass without further consideration. Do we have any objections or comments on the site plan approval for the high school?
I just have a question, like,
Mm-hmm.
visually, where is this? Is this the same place that the high school is now?
Yep,
Yep.
they're
And
doing an
s-
on-site construction.
Oh, okay, that's why I was like, it
Mhm.
In the
seems like
binding.
it, but, and then they're gonna put in that roundabout, or, no?
I mean,
Well,
it's a
they put in a
substantial
temporary-
reconfiguration of the site,
Correct.
but
Uh-huh.
and they bought all the Gamble property to the north where the old horse track used to be, and
Oh, okay.
so that's where the school will sit. So if you drive up
Oh.
4th now and stop at 11th, they're already cutting in
That's where the road.
the road, and you can see that they've already started grading in the field.
They're doing earthwork
Like,
now.
this
Yeah.
is
So there'll be
900
that
south right here.
That additional roundabout, cause the existing roundabout is up here in the top corner.
Well, they
Right.
put a temporary roundabout already on.
Oh, have they?
Mhm.
Like Red Devil or
On Red
6, whatever that is in Canyon.
It's,
G?
You
it's
should go to
temporary
read the
and
comments on Facebook if you want some entertainment.
Well, yeah, it's not very conducive. If you take anything bigger than a Volkswagen Beetle through there, you're gonna hit all the temporary,
Oh, the temporary roundabout
barriers or
barriers, okay. Okay,
Cones.
that was just my own question.
you driven
I
through
couldn't
it?
visualize where it was.
Yeah, there's new roads in there and stuff too, so it's
Yeah, I
conf-
was.
it's a
I
little
was
confusing.
It is-
I was
it is-
confused about the orientation of things.
It is worth the drive up there though, to see where they're cutting that road down.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
kind of
last time
it's
I
an
was
interesting
there
place.
was Art City Days with the balloons, so I hadn't
Yeah.
seen those things, so.
It is different. They've moved the football field and that part's complete. They have taken out some parking lot and they've added temporary parking lot in the back and all kinds of
Made a
stuff.
lot of changes. huh?
If you'd like to, we can just move it to the next item, and I can just pull up the site plan and we can talk through it.
I move to move the consent item to the administrative.
Sure.
I second
Okay.
the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, Commissioner, or Mr. Yost, would you like to give a
Joshua.
presentation?
Sure, let me pull that up for you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Just a reminder for everybody. What's that?
How can I get to the staff report? Yeah, it's on our drive.
Need to be reminded.
Yeah, it would be on the public
I-
notice website.
The city have Google Fiber yet?
City had pre-existing fiber.
Um,
Was the screen, like, it's there, but the screen's moved down?
There we go. It's not auto hiding the taskbar or something. Okay, let's download this and use the actual PDF. Okay, maybe not. Okay. This is the high school. This building right here is Oak Ridge, which is the special education building that is just north of the seminary. So the seminary is sitting right here. Maybe if I do this, it'll help you.
Google Maps.
So the road that was down the bottom, is that 800 south?
Yes.
900.
Or 900 south?
Yeah,
Sorry.
900.
Goes in front of the school,
Mm-hmm.
and that's staying the same.
That's
Correct.
staying the same, okay.
The only thing that's changing is Red Devil Drive.
I didn't, and are we creating Red Devil Drive?
Yeah.
Is the name?
It's
It-
already there.
But it's not called, is it called Red Devil Drive? And I just never knew.
Well, it's known as Red Devil Drive.
Oh,
So right
okay.
now, this is Oak Ridge. This is the seminary. This is the current high school, and this is. I'm going to try this again. Let's see if I can open in a system viewer. There we go. Okay, so they're about at the same scale. If I can get all these notifications to turn off. So this road right here is this road over here. The white roads are existing roads.
Okay,
So this is existing 1300 East essentially that comes up next to Oak Ridge and then goes past the Arts Park. That road will be that road will be changed and turned into a roundabout that will sit just north of the Oak Ridge building. The Oak Ridge building will remain and be transferred to the city. Then the existing Red Devil Drive at about this point here at the bottom of the Arts Park will make a turn and swing into the roundabout. And then this new street will continue from just north of Oak Ridge up and then up to 11th East here, cutting through the former racetrack. And then the new school sits up here
I mean, that'll go up to,
To 4 South.
To-
to 4 South at 11th East, just to the west of the Gamble home.
So by racetrack, are you talking about horses
It
or
used
the
to be
driving
called
range?
Yeah.
Because the driving range kind of.
Well, the driving range is
It's
down
that
here.
purpose.
The range is down
As-
here, but the
there
horse
used to be a
track-
Oh,
race.
used to be a horse
there
I'm
used to
with
be a
you.
horse track then, that's
Yeah.
fun.
Karen's
So-
getting the dad joke in for the night.
Yeah.
Oh, too slow, it's too.
So Arts Park
Goes away.
goes away.
Oh, no, Arts Park stays. Sorry, Spring Acres. I get
Spring
confused
Acres
here, 'cause there's
Park.
3 parks.
There are.
So Arts Park stays and sits here. The new road goes right up past the bathrooms.
Okay,
And the bathrooms will be connected to actual sewer now, instead of one that has to pump up the hill and sometimes doesn't.
and then parking will
Parking will be
shared?
all here, and we'll share that parking.
Okay,
And then all this area to the east of the road, to the northeast of the road here, all the way from the top of the slope, all the way down to the road will be a new city park, essentially the new Spring Acres Park.
okay.
And we'll have fields and walking paths and trails, and we'll have on-street parking on the new Red Devil Drive.
'Cause there
And
are horses
know
there
what
right
kind of
now,
field
even
or
though it's not a track anymore.
In the city park,
I've had horses stand. at me.
multi-use fields, we
Oh,
haven't
sounds
gone
fun.
through the design,
Acres.
so, flag football and soccer and
Big grass area.
big grass area.
So could you tell us, in all of this exchange that occurred, what you ended up getting as the city and what the school maybe got from the city?
I can generally, that balance sheet is always kind of shifting around as the plans move, and it's kind of, the city actually has a lot of credit on that balance sheet at the moment.
So let me ask this question then, maybe this will make it easier. So is Bird Park still owned by the city or the
Correct.
district? The
Bird
city.
Park stays with the city.
That stays with the city, okay. And
Everything-
Arts Park stays with the city,
Arts Park stays with the city.
and the city also got these fields back here in Spring Acre Park.
Up here on,
Is it
I wish I could
trade?
see where you're pointing, sorry.
Well, where it says Spring Acre Park on this map.
Here,
so it would
yes.
be what, north of there, sort of northeast?
It's over here, we get a new park.
And how many
That's
acres?
on an
How many
incline.
acres
I
is
don't
that?
have,
don't know.
part of it, there is flat, and then it is the hill too.
Oh, okay.
There's
We
enough
just
flat
gotta
area to
go
have
side.
fields. I don't remember the exact acreage back and forth, and we'll also pick up this area down here.
Oh, that whole area,
This area here comes to the city,
not just the
that the Oak
building.
Ridge and the Seminary Building and part of the current building sits on. So this loop from 12th East around to the roundabout will come to the city. There may be some facilities co-located there, like tennis courts, that they may end up being the city's tennis courts, but they're programmed for the school.
So where the school sits, where the actual building sits, was that district property or was that city property?
It was city property and Gamble property.
Right, I knew it was Gamble property, but I didn't know if the city had some of that.
Yeah, so
over
the
old tennis
school sits kind of right in here. And so it was city property, school district property, and acquired school district property.
The city did get a portion of the Gamble property. for the
The city does end up with a portion of the Gamble property, correct?
pretty large
And
portion. Yeah,
yes, well, it's not half or a third, but it's an amount. I don't have the,
it's not half though.
no, it's not half.
Roughly equivalent to the size of Spring Acres.
No, I mean, it may be roughly equivalent to the size of Spring Acres, but there's also some other transactions that have already happened that are related to this. We got the west end of the Grant School, west of the that field that was inside the fence, but right next to Memorial Park. That's where our new,
Oh.
what?
Oh, I just said, oh,
Yeah. Oh, I thought you said sport because I can't.
Oh.
Wiffle ball. No, is that wiffle ball? The
pickleball?
Pickleball.
no wiffle ball that you play baseball with a
Wiffle
little.
ball.
Oh.
We're gonna put two wiffle ball fields there and some other stuff as part of the renovation to make it the Al Curtis athletic facility at Memorial Park.
Were there
and-
soccer fields there? Like the little soccer
we
played there?
occasionally did use this piece for youth soccer.
Youth
So we
soccer,
get,
yeah.
this whole piece now comes to the school district and schools comes to the
Do
city.
you have a wiffle ball program?
No, but we
Who
will.
plays wiffle ball?
It's apparently an up and coming thing.
It's coming up like, just a few years ago. The other one was not, pickleball was not popular, and now it's,
And we also received this property on the west side of Meadowbrook. This whole piece here came to the city from the school district
Oh.
in two chunks. We got the pickleball chunk first, and then this north part. So that was part of the balance sheet equation.
I see.
And the school district is also providing the construction of that new park on the Gamble property and the updating kind of reconstruction of the Bird Park fields with new lights, new turf and fields, irrigation.
So what did the district get from the city?
The school district got all of Spring Acres Park and the
Parking lot.
the Spring Acres lot and the parking lot, as well as
Roads and such.
well, the road will be dedicated as part of the project. It's not something I have right on the top of my head, and I'm sorry. I can get you
I,
our running balance sheet.
for me, I just was curious.
So the football field and the track, it's gonna be in the same place that.
No, they pulled it
It's already
forward.
been-
So this is where it was, and this is where it is. So it moved over about half a football
see.
field width,
Okay,
a little
And it's
more.
so it's
completed
just,
now.
it's just scooched over a little.
Scooched east and south.
So is the soccer field gonna be the football field?
The football field does have lines for a
It's a-
soccer field
It'll be soccer,
turf.
lacrosse,
and football.
football. It's it's turf now, so if you have an opportunity to go look at it, it's
It's a
really
nice facility.
Yeah.
Nice facility. My question now is that area where the seminary building and everything is
Mhm.
right now, and where we go up 1300 East, that road, what happens to that vacant property on the other side? What's the city gonna do? They'll close the road off, and there'll be no access anymore up 1300 East once you move it over to Red Devil Drive.
No, no accesses will be closed.
So
Talk me
1300
through
East
that
will
again.
remain
Just
open?
keeps go- Yeah.
Or Canyon Road.
Oh, yes, this is this street here.
Okay,
So it just goes into the roundabout and then goes up, connects back in up the hill.
all right.
Yes.
Are they gonna expand that roundabout?
The one at the top of the hill?
Yes.
Yes, that project is part of this whole thing, and the preliminary plan there is to build the full roundabout, which is why the city owns this corner piece.
Oh,
They're
was that
gonna
intended to
try-
be a roundabout?
We're gonna try and adjust that goofy
Yeah,
turn there going in towards Diamond
yeah.
Spring Hill.
That's
Yeah.
that's what I
The
thought of.
city's owned that property
The
for
ultimate plan
years now.
is here the city's owned 611 for quite a while, is to connect 1470 East through to the roundabout and then terminate Houts here with just an access to the last house. So this connection will go away and it will come here to a nice perpendicular square roundabout intersection.
Okay.
That's the long-term concept.
What does the intersection look like on Fourth?
The 4th and 11th?
Yeah.
That's steep right
Icy.
there, isn't it?
Once you get up to the Gamel's yard,
Flattens
it flattens out up here. It falls off quite quickly, kind of right along this slope.
It'd be a great skateboarding hill.
But the house isn't changing, right? The house is still there, or
No, they did purchase,
acquired
the house was
too?
part of the property, but they are disposing of the house through another transaction. Not getting rid of it, not demolishing the house, but selling the
They're
house.
selling the
So
house.
Josh, I'm sure you guys have done all the engineering work and traffic studies to understand what I mean, we have so few north-south roads up there, and I know
Yes.
that's why we had to build that road. But I'm curious what that will do to traffic right there. We thought through that. It seems to me it's
More
gonna be,
south.
it's gonna be brutal.
Extensively, yeah. We anticipate that generally here, this is going to be a signalized intersection.
Oh, it is?
Yes, at 11th.
Okay.
There's still, I don't know if we've arrived at the final exact design. The school district was advocating for a right only that would then take you around the roundabout and back. I think the city's position was they wanted to have a full movement intersection there. But yes, much deliberation and monthly plus meetings for the last 3 years. There's been a lot of discussion and analysis going into how that works.
What is the grade of that road coming down the hill? That's gotta be pretty steep.
I know it takes some fill. This road's here is going to be higher than the areas adjacent to it. It meets all of our engineering standards. It's a tricky bit of construction, but public
Probably
work.
similar to when they put in 620 or 50 or whatever it is on the other side. That's pretty steep too.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, that's what's happening. There's in this area over here, adjacent between the parking and the arts park. Can't see it well on this, but we've flared out the new Red Devil Drive, and we'll have a large median here that has trees and seating and provides an opportunity for us to close the street at the north parking entrance and at the roundabout, or just, yeah, at the roundabout, so that this street can become a festival street, so that when we have opportunities to use the arts park for events, that we can close that off. And it could also be closed for football games or other types of events to provide festival food trucks, any number of things, but
Any
it'll be.
thoughts of moving Art City Days up there? I know we did it, 1 or 2 years up there, and there was, up at the Arts Park, and there was a whole furor about it, but it seems to me you could maybe do it with all these changes.
Yeah, I'm not privy to those kind of long-term programmatic discussions with those activities, but I know it will have some disruptions to the things we do use it for during the construction. You know, we got to find a place to shoot off fireworks now.
Where do the buses come in at and the traffic as people are picking up and?
The buses come into the back. I don't know how the regional bus routing works, but in terms of the actual internal routing, buses will come north from 4th South and drop to the rear bus loop, and buses coming from 8th and the 9th will come up, and from 4th will come again to the rear and around the bus loop.
And then that front part is
Is parent.
parent drop-off?
This is really, I think, where they'd like to have the majority of the parent drop-off is to the
Oh,
south of the
okay.
building. This is essentially visitor parking and circulation. It's going to be used for drop-off, so there's a lot of, with essentially a ring road all the way around the building, or a ring driveway, there's a lot of opportunities for queuing and dropping off and picking up.
Is it 2 lanes and parking or just 2 lanes?
The new Red Devil,
No, this loop that you're talking about.
The front.
there's no parking on that. That's just an internal driveway. All the parking's in the lots.
I'm curious, cause if people are dropping, they'll stop and drop their kids.
Yeah, I think there are some.
Firsthand on my own street I'm on.
They'll get it going in one direction so people know which way to go.
Yeah, and there's a pull off here in some other areas, and then this whole loop. There's been a lot of discussion and a lot of
About that drop.
pushback about how to make all the circulation work right, for sure. Especially in the interim. Any
So
other?
they're building on the same site, and then once it's built, then they'll do the.
Yeah, so
the-
phase 1 right
demolish
now
the
is
old
building
school.
phase 1 was actually building the field, and bid package 2 is the school and this road.
Oh, okay.
And then they'll come back after that's completed, and we're not quite sure how this interim road connection here works. But after this is completed, they'll come and tear down the school and complete this connecting road and the roundabout.
Oh, okay. So that's kind of like last steps.
Yes, that's
before-
last steps.
Before, and then it's anticipated to be open for the 2026 school year, the school, or the entire project complete?
No, the entire project won't be complete at that point.
Okay.
But
so
the
that
school,
2026 fall is for the
Move into the
actual
new school, and then they will have already probably started demolition, but they'll have to finish the site work and
Okay.
streets and maybe our park.
Okay.
We anticipate it lasting through that year.
Any additional questions? Okay. Thank you. That's informative. And since we moved it to the administrative session, now we need to vote on it, correct?
Yeah, now you need a motion and a vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion for this item?
I move to
Approve this.
recommend. Oh no, it's approved, right?
Mhm.
I recommend to move to grant site plan approval for a new high school to be
I second.
located at 500 South Red Devil Drive. I don't, that sentence doesn't make sense to me, but usually I can just read the motion.
I do want it to be on the record, though.
Oh,
just
grant
that
site. To give site
the
plan
range of
approval.
available addresses for the high school ranges from about 500 to almost 700. So there were some other options for addressing the high school that we could explore if we had guidance from the commission.
I don't know. That's a dangerous range for a Red Devil drive. But yeah, so I move to grant site plan approval and
I'll second
seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, and the site plan is approved. We have one item on our legislative session with a public hearing. Springville Rising LLC seeking to amend the Springville City Code 11-3-402 definitions, 11-4-301 land use matrix, and 11-7-204 general criteria to adopt a new conditional use historic residential reuse. And do we have something from,
So the applicant has requested that we continue that item.
I wonder why it wasn't in the packet now.
that is why. Okay,
I move to continue that item.
I'll second.
Do we have to
are we
have
still required to have a public hearing even though we're
this time,
continuing
or
it?
can
And
we do
have
it when we continue?
nothing.
I'm not entirely sure. It can't hurt for you to open a public hearing, then vote to close one, and then continue consideration of the item.
Mhm.
I move to open the public hearing then.
So would you like to table your first motion?
Table my first motion.
Okay.
Yes.
And move to a second motion?
Yes. To
Okay.
open a public hearing.
Do we have a second for the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The public hearing is open on this item if anyone,
Not seeing anyone coming to the podium, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing
Aye.
is now closed. Would you like to bring back your
Like
previous
to
motion?
Bring back my motion to continue, legislative item, Springville Rising consideration to future meeting.
All right. We have a motion to continue. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This item is now continued to a future date. Do we have anything else from staff before we adjourn?
Well, I was initially concerned that you would not get your money's worth for showing up tonight. So I do have a presentation I can share on the progress of all of our plans and development stuff, if you'd like, if you're interested. But I didn't anticipate that we'd have as productive a discussion as we've had so far. So, but I'll just drop that out there if you'd like, if you're interested.
Okay. What's the interest level of the commission? Would you like to see updates or would you like to adjourn?
Depends on which updates you're talking about.
He wants
Uh,
to know if Alan's block is coming.
I can tell you all about whatever you'd like that's not in the presentation too, or I could just answer your questions for a moment. I'm here just as a resource.
I'm good with seeing the presentation.
I move to see the presentation.
Okay.
Okay, let's do a
Let's do that.
presentation.
We want to make sure you got your money's worth too. Why not? Yeah. Oh, I saw the email about the training that's coming up.
Yes. On that, the state has, in the past, about 3 years ago, adopted an amendment to the state code that requires planning commissioners to receive a certain number of hours of training every year. And this, as a result of that, the South County planners got together and decided we would do a yearly planning commissioner training. And the first year it was held at Spanish Fork. Payson had it last year and Santaquin has it this year. So that is an opportunity for us to meet the majority of that training requirement all together on one night. So please make an effort to attend if you can.
What was the date on that again? I know I saw it in the email.
September 1st.
No, September
No,
1st is the
with the
RSVP.
RSVP.
It's the
September
20th.
20th.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
5:30 to 8:30.
It's a Wednesday, right?
Yes.
It is a Wednesday. It's not the usual night for us. And we typically, for that night, let me just check. Okay, that's not a planning commission week. If sometimes it has landed on the planning commission week, and we cancel that planning commission meeting, and we can see what the agendas look like at that point. I'm guessing we won't be able to. We need to have a meeting on the 12th and the 26th just to keep moving all the plans forward that we've got in progress. So these were the priorities that I was given by the city council when I started. I state it often, but I'll state it again, that I did not get the list before I accepted the job. They gave it to me after I accepted the job. And the numbering reflects the prioritization from the city council. So there are a number that tie, and I don't even have it right here because 3 should actually be 4, and then 4 should be a double tie for 5. But this essentially gives you an idea of what their priorities were, and each element that we've been able to sign off fades away as we move forward, and the ones that are in progress get an underline, and the ones that we haven't advanced don't change. So as we get to the end of the list here, you'll see that we have just a few items that we haven't actually started addressing yet that are left.
Is downtown beautification combined with the reframing downtown?
Yes, that's really part of the being addressed in the reframing downtown plan. So these are the remaining elements, the remaining things on the list that we're working through.
Can I ask you real quick?
Yes, please.
Somebody else probably knows, what's the status on Allen Block, where are we at? Just real quick summary.
Yeah, the Allens Block, the Main Street South Gateway Zone was adopted in September of 2020. It's been amended a couple times since then. We received initial site plan approval application from the development group in November and provided them with the first round of comments in December. We then received the second set of the first revisions in May, responded to those, and received a second set of revisions last month. And we're working through those right now. You're welcome.
Was there any set dates that we have now for the Allen's property, or is it just?
No.
Okay.
I've received general aspirations in terms of quarters that they'd like to be moving, but it's not stuck to anything so far, so we're hoping that we be able to get it fully approved and have them be ready to start moving dirt or knocking down buildings by the end of the year. That's really what I think is probably the timeline we're on.
What was our last amendment? Was it related to the townhome?
The very last amendment was changes to the floor-to-floor heights,
Yes.
and in the townhomes and on Main Street.
Would city council,
Correct.
what did they say to that?
They they adopted that change, and then we came back to you because we had actually missed one of the pieces in the ordinance of the language. In the language of the ordinance, on the 4th floor height on the Main Street side.
And we just did that very recently.
Yeah, we brought that back to you just to cross that T. So we don't anticipate. We think we have a project and a code that are copacetic, and we're just working through the final architectural elements and some engineering finalization on the engineering, so the civil engineering on the site. And we're also working to coordinate the efforts of the Main Street plan, the reframing downtown plan, and an addition we made to that contract to develop some streetscape standards so that we could implement them with the Allens Block. So we're working on collaboration with the property owner to figure out a way to try to only do the streetscape once. And that's kind of one of the last critical path items to getting their approval.
But it is a private development, right? It's not a city development?
No, it is not. It's actually owned by the same entity that bought it from the Allens family that's been involved for a number of years. It's changed developers that they've had an initial relationship initially with a local developer in Springville, and then that fell apart, and they now have another development group representing them out of Salt Lake. So this is a chart to just kind of show you how everything works together to accomplish the rest of the list. Under the general plan update, we're lumping in the gateway plans, the highway commercial zone study, all of that kind of the economic development leakage, all of those data-driven studies. And then that will inform and really be one process with our zoning and subdivision overhaul, so that at the end of the process we have a zoning and subdivision ordinance that implements the general plan, so that we don't have to do the general plan and then come back and then rewrite the zoning ordinance and go through all of the engagement and involvement and meetings twice, but so that we have basically a turnkey set of code and general plan at the end of the process. Right now, 1600 South is in just final staff review. I'll have final comments back to the consultant team tomorrow. Active Transportation has come to you and is moving forward to the City Council. Reframing Downtown just is in the same place. We just finished the last review meeting internally with staff on that yesterday, and we'll provide comments to the consultant. It's been released for public review for a couple of weeks. On also, the commercial design standards element from the previous page will come on the heels of the general plan. And then the downtown beautification implementation will come out of the reframing downtown and the general plan. Site and ordinance review is the kind of the last one on the priority list and comes at the bottom, or in concurrence with the commercial design standards. Right now, the 16 South Corridor Plan is projected to be ready for adoption, or ready for consideration by the City Council on November 7th, based on this timeline. The Active Transportation Plan, this was from last week, so, I mean, from 2 weeks ago, so you've seen that. It is, again, no longer going to City Council on the 19th, most likely for adoption, because it's not going for a work study session until the 5th. It may end up on the 19th, it may be pushed to October. Reframing Downtown is in its final internal review, as I mentioned, and it is agended for action by the City Council on October 3rd. So it'll come to you before that. I believe that's agended for your meeting, your first meeting next month. We may not get there, but we're working towards that.
What is that, what is the concept, what is the idea behind that?
So the Reframing Downtown plan is a plan for downtown from the Main Street corridor from 800 South, essentially the interchange, to 400 North, one block either side of Main Street. And it has, looks at transportation infrastructure, development zoning, street design programming, civic assets, all those elements, and makes a series of recommendations to achieve the goals of the plan, which really came down to capitalizing on our civic assets, making more of an 18-hour downtown that's more vibrant and active, leading into our identity as Art City, and really further developing our food and cultural offerings and culture downtown. And we'll have a long presentation on that in a couple
It's
weeks.
similar to one of the neighborhood plans, right?
It's of a similar scope to a community plan. Yeah. You're welcome. And you'll be getting copies of those here soon for review, so you have plenty of time before the meetings. And aside, if any of these, if anyone wants paper, or as a general rule wants paper, we're happy to print those and get them to you. Just let us know so that we can leave you plenty of time with those copies. We just delivered paper copies, like ream thick sets of all these plans to the City Council, so we're happy to do that if you need. And the North Main Street plan is essentially finishing up the planning for Main Street from 400 North to the north boundary of the city, with a lot of focus on that 1400 North intersection, which has a lot of potential to be a great gateway into the city and is failing to live up to that potential so far. But there's a lot of exciting things happening up there, and we really want to capitalize on that so that we can make sure we properly craft the vision and the zoning for that area for the next number of decades. The RFP has been issued. We actually on Friday have a pre-application question and answer meeting with all of the potential respondents to that RFP. They will have an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the project and ask their questions. So that RFP will close just at the beginning of September, I believe, and then we'll make a selection on that consultant and hopefully be finished by mid-year next year. And the general plan, which is kind of the plan that is always on the end of the list, we're working on finalizing the RFQ. We're going to do a process, instead of going for proposals, we're going to ask for qualifications and then shortlist a group of respondents to solicit proposals from and enter negotiations with the finalists out of those proposals. We're also procuring that in a way that will take bids from both individual firms for individual pieces of the scope and from a prime consultant that is bringing in sub-consultants. So if there's a public engagement firm that is really good and wants to come in and help us with the public engagement, we will we'll entertain an individual proposal or an individual set of qualifications from them, and then if we so choose, pair them with other consultants for economic studies, economic demographic data, for transportation analysis, for land use, for zoning, and if we're just basically leaving the door open to be able to cobble together the dream team if we want to. If we get a prime that brings all of the sub-consultants as a team that we're happy with, we can go that way as well. We just wanted to leave the door open to as broad a field of respondents so that we could have the biggest group to choose from, so that we can do a great job on the general plan.
On your previous slide where you had said like where certain like commercial design standards would kind of evolve from
Yes.
the general plan.
Correct.
That's meaning that if the general plan isn't going to be done until fourth quarter 24, those things won't begin to be addressed until fourth quarter 24?
Yes, that one is really a follow-on. If you did the Gantt chart, it's really a start when this is done. The other ones, like the zoning and subdivision overhaul, will really be more wrapped into the general plan than this indicates. We're really going to scope and procure that in one package, so we don't have to go through the process twice, and so that we have somebody involved in the general plan process that understands how to take the vision and the goals of the general plan and translate them into effective zoning. Because often there's a lost in translation part where you have a general plan and then you go to try to redo the zoning, and the zoning doesn't end up being a good tool to get you what you said you wanted in the general plan.
Well, that's going to be more concurrent.
Yes, but the commercial design standards I anticipate will probably come on the back end of that, because the general plan is going to kind of communicate the city's vision as to what we want in terms of if it's everything being masonry and neo-traditional, or everything being made out of shipping containers, or all of the above. That's kind of the guidance that we'll get from the general plan that'll make narrowing down that commercial design standard process a little easier.
You're looking at 2025 for that.
Yeah.
Can you expand a little bit more on the North Main Street plan?
Yes, the North Main Street plan is going to be comprehensive in the same way that the Main Street plan is. We hope we won't have to spend as much time on the cross-section of the street, what the street actually looks like, because we hope we can just extend the design we have for the area from Center Street to 400 North up to the north boundary of the city, and devote more time to the transportation element, dealing with specifically with that intersection. How do we make that intersection work well? How do we deal with access management to get rid of some of those really scary head-on left turns that we have up there? I always throw out there, and our city engineer comes along with me because he loves them, that maybe it's a roundabout. But primarily, we're going to focus on investigating what land use we want to see up there and how that intersects with what the market may be able to deliver in terms of future development, making sure that the future land use plan and the development regulations that we put into place make it accessible for small pieces to be developed incrementally. We don't want to create a set of rules where you have to be a really, really big player to come in and do anything. We want the north end of Main Street to evolve like our downtown did, where people made small bets and small moves over time and incrementally got to where we are today. We're looking at what type of access management and local connections need to be made. Is there opportunities to make additional east-west connections onto Main Street to neighborhoods to the east and west? Because once you get to 900, that's basically the last connection you have, except one to the east, a little farther to the north. But to see if we can complete the grid up in that area a little better and provide better property access and deal with some of the deep properties that don't have a lot of frontage but have a lot of depth, and essentially deliver us at the end a vision for the land use, the urban design, and the architectural character and the regulatory scheme that will get us what we want.
Along those lines, Josh, those deeper properties, are you getting a lot of requests from owners to develop it in ways that
I get a lot of
are not
requests from
approved?
one owner.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
I was curious if you were getting from more than one, but that's the only one.
Yeah, I've received just an initial hey heads up from property on the east side of the street, but generally, other than the Payne property at the north end of the 1400 North intersection, that's usually what all the inquiries are about. What can we do on this piece now that they've put a 7-Eleven on the corner? Then the general plan again, finish up end of next year. Honestly, I'd be thrilled and kind of excited if we actually were able to hit that date. But I'm more concerned with doing a lot of the work up front and getting a lot of engagement and getting a really solid a public mandate for the adoption and advancement of that plan, then getting it done quickly. And then the zoning subdivision overhaul, following right on that and concurrently as part of the general plan. And this is the sketchy thing in terms of construction that you might be interested in. Last year, which was came down off of 21 a little bit, we had 93 new single-family starts, 6 twin-home duplex starts, 4 multifamily starts, and that's not 4 units, it's 4 buildings, 4 permits. Then we had 23 new commercial permits with a valuation of about $72 million for a total permit valuation in fiscal 22 of $144 million. That really fell off in fiscal 23 down to 37 new single family, no new multifamily or twin home duplex, and a greatly reduced number of new commercial permits, and less than half of the total permit valuation we saw in fiscal 22. We anticipate that on the residential side, that's going to turn around a little pretty substantially, back up to the previous year or more. We're estimating about 200 equivalent residential units of development. So that's when you add all the houses and commercial together using a common denominator. The commercial market is still very interesting. We have a large, like 350,000 square foot industrial cross-dock building that's entitled, but it's just sitting. The company's waiting for other properties in the region to kind of lease up as the industrial office warehouse logistics market has softened over the past 2 years. And we have other permits like EOS Fitness that actually had a permit ready to be issued, and they have gone back to some redesign on that. So we've had some, nobody's really bailed, but we've had slowdowns on some of the construction across both commercial and residential.
I mean, how likely do you think it is, and maybe Ralph knows this answer better than I do, or better than you do, but with the continued reduction in land in Springville, Utah, I mean, how likely do you think it is that we'll continue to see a downswing? I know we have 1600 south opening up, and that'll create some momentum, I guess, but it seems to me that we should, over the next period of years, should expect this to downturn as we better find other places for our money.
Right, and we're definitely not, and it's really a key tenet of the way we work as a city that we don't fund operations with growth, but we fund the services needed to accommodate growth with that growth money. So like we had to let a building inspector go in the beginning of this fiscal year because we had planned for looking at the market, looking at what we had available for more activity than we saw. And so we actually had to reduce the number of building inspectors. So there's going to be a point where maybe we only have one building inspector because we're not seeing as much development. I haven't seen that happen in a city on the Wasatch Front yet because they just keep kind of moving to the next step of infill and redevelopment. But we're at about 36,000 right now, and the last time we did the general plan, we were looking at a build out between 55 and 60. So there's still a good amount of development left, and there's still a good amount of land to do that development on. But there will, you're totally correct that it's going to kind of be a long tail.
When are we expecting like Lakeside to start coming online?
It's a good question. You just recently recommended to the council they approve the road dedication plat. They have their final set of construction drawings in for 2600 West and Center Street. And the first vertical construction, they're really aiming at late spring. We'll see if we can hit that. But they'd really like to be in the ground today on utilities and other streets, all the horizontal work.
Any
That-
chance we're
that-
getting a bridge over I-15 on Center Street to connect that a little bit more?
No, not at that point, but it is in the regional transportation plan to have a bridge probably more in the 5th to 4th north alignment. So the RTP has a line that comes from 4th west and 4th north up and then across the river at 950 and then somehow out kind of along 5th and to connect to 5th on the west side of the freeway. So the RTP does have a vehicular crossing between 4th and 1400 in the long-range plan.
Very long range.
Ooh.
So Josh,
Then
what
that-
is
then
the
that gives
Westmore
us- oh,
here
sorry.
when they did that development? So when you see the two exits,
Mhm.
where does it sit? Does it sit more to the north, does it sit in the center? Where does
It sits more to the south.
To the south.
yeah.
So most people will be entering somewhere south?
Yeah, it's kind of by where the transfer station.
So it
Yeah,
really
okay,
runs
that's what I
from
thought.
500 north.
So people really aren't gonna take the frontage road on the north.
Well,
They could,
the plan here is everything is south of 5th with Lakeside currently. There may be a little piece that comes up, but everything that's currently entitled is south of 5th and west of the current commercial development, all the way down and including the transfer station. And then there's a little bit over there, and it could continue onto Crandall property. But
Okay, since you mentioned transfer station, when are they getting the heck out of there?
it's supposed to be Q2 of next year. I am not up to date on whether they're still on track.
Imagine. So poorly managed.
Are they we're gonna do new roads or something? I mean, 400 north.
Yes.
You cross the railroads and then it's that tight. It's
Yes.
a mess.
All of this here gets redesigned when the road from Devon Glen comes across, and then all the streets in this area adjacent to the plant get moved around. We can do a presentation on transportation on one night. It'll be interesting. But Lakeside will construct 2600 West, or the continuation of Spanish Fork, Maine, all the way up to here as part of that project. So you'll be able to get up that far. And then we have MAG funding secured to build a pioneering road from this point all the way up and across the wildlife management area, the June sucker
Really?
mitigation, up to the 1400 North exit.
Wow.
So we anticipate when that's completed, that if you're in this area and you're going to if you're headed north on I-15, you're not gonna come back down to 4 South and try to take a left out of here onto 4th and get to this interchange, especially with the millions of square feet of industrial product that Spanish Fork is planning on out in this area.
Or is that what they're planning?
We're planning what?
Millions of square feet of industrial
Yeah, they got,
/ the inland port, district. So they're really,
That's inland port there? Or that's another inland port?
another.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're looking to establish an
It's
inland
there?
port
No, it's
district
on his
here.
leg.
And all of the internal streets will be built to accommodate that, so we'll have multiple connections back to the frontage road and
To
to
accommodate
2600 West.
the Spanish Fork.
No, to accommodate Lakeside, sorry. We are working with Spanish Fork to make sure that they continue Center Street all the way out through this area so that 4 South isn't the only way in and out.
Cause that's be a lot of heavy trucks and whatnot going.
That's gonna be a lot.
That's gonna-
Especially if we anticipate a lot of it so far, the interest has been logistics tenants, logistics users.
Is that gonna be though, like later on after we have that 1600 south?
1600 South is coming.
It's
I
gonna
mean,
be
we already have a
another
couple
huge
100,000 square feet of Colmena product here north of 1600 South, and the Clyde or the GWC Capital projects are advancing very quickly out north of the airport.
But we will eventually have
But
a second interchange.
We'll have the 1600 South or the Springville Spanish Fork exit in 26, 27.
So it
there
doesn't
sometime.
only have to go through 400
No.
south. There'll be that to
are we
divide it to as
annexed all
well.
the way out to Spanish Fork going west? Is
So
that-
this blue line is our annex line. Previously, our annexation policy declaration boundary was along the state road, but Spanish Fork came last year with an interest to annex property up in this area. These this 200 acres and some additional property to develop an industrial park with GWC Capital, and the city essentially communicated that we weren't interested in annexing that if the desire was to do industrial product out there. So we're probably going to end up with Spanish Fork somewhere out in this area. There's still a couple parcel gap between us and this annexation area. They're finalizing like 3 parcels. So it's still up in the air where this line will be north of 4 South, but south of 4 South, it's set.
So we won't be annexing anything west there? Spanish Fork will annex it?
Spanish Fork,
Make it industrial property?
yeah, Spanish Fork is already annexing this Wood and Hales property. Sorry, not the Wood, Hanson and Hales property. And then we have the Wood and the Hanson and the Money property in between, and we're not sure which way those will go.
Are we because I think this is a good question. Are we attempting to get that? It'd be nice to have a buffer between us and that.
Yeah, the annexation law doesn't allow us to initiate any annexation. It's totally on the back of the property owner.
I didn't know
Well,
that.
we can take them to dinner.
Yeah.
Yes, we can take them to dinner. And there's been a lot of high-level kind of mayor-to-mayor discussion about how that works, and that it's politically sensitive, and that we want to be considerate of each other's interests when we're arriving at a final boundary out there.
Yeah. They have started quite a bit of development in that area just in the
Yeah.
last year, and going down that road
Yeah.
where it was quiet, just on 4 South after you cross over everything.
Yeah, north of the airport, this
Yeah.
whole area.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
wild.
There's like
Are they
residential
providing,
and looks like there's a trail.
encouragement from the city for that?
So
For,
that
like,
has
tax
already
breaks,
been
stuff like
annexed?
that?
I'm not
Or the-
aware of any at the moment. I know the Inland Port District provides some tools that the cities that Spanish Fork is interested in. Right now, the real push for this for the property out here, the Hanson property was the fact that GWC Capital has already extended sewer and other utilities up to this point to serve this project and the new transfer station. And it made a lot of sense for them to amortize that investment against a lot more developable ground.
So they've already completed the annexation south of 400, or
Yes, everything down here, they have annexed all the way up to the current
That
boundary
current
line and
boundary.
out past the airport. That's one reason the city got out of the airport, is because we wouldn't have the same type of access to it that that made sense for us to stay in the airport.
Yeah.
Just so we don't feel so bad, this is build single-family construction from Saratoga Springs dashboard.
I was gonna say,
Wow.
how's that not gonna
So-
make us feel bad?
So they fell from, almost by 75% from 22 to 23, despite having a lot of entitled lots. And their multifamily also fell off a pretty precipitous cliff.
Wow.
And we've seen the same thing in Spanish Fork, that the
It's just-
bigger market forces were much more impactful than we anticipated they would be. And here, we also had, we didn't have as big a lot inventory as we had, but we've got all the lots at Westfield Central, and I still don't have a single building permit application on any of those.
Yeah,
So,
so interesting.
there's 196 doors out there.
Hmm.
Well, it goes back to that price, I think, and now interest rates, but
Yeah.
it's interesting.
I think we talked through it, yeah. Westfield Central, where there may be 40 lots under contract. Allen's Block's moving forward. These are some of the renderings of the Main Street elevations of that project. And that's your
Yeah,
tour of the city.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you.
thanks for that, that was great.
That's helpful. Okay, anything else before we adjourn? All right,
Now I move to adjourn.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Aye. All right,